everybody. Welcome. We are live, and we have backstage. I'm about to bring out the amazingly hilarious, talented Parry Shen from the Hatchet series and leading Victor Crowley. He plays Brad Cooper on General Hospital. He's voice acted for a bunch of great games, including Mortal Kombat X, Mortal Kombat 1, a bunch of TV appearances. I mean, this guy's done everything. So without further ado, let's bring on the great Parry Shen. How's it going, Parry?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me, JT.
Of course, man. Thank you so much again for just coming on here. And we're going to talk some horror. We're going to talk some movies. We're going to talk some acting. It's going to be
Awesome.
great. So let's just say hi to some people here. We got good evening, JT. Good evening, Mr. Shen.
Good evening.
We got Pat in the house. The Nat. Yeah, the Nat is a little, it's a side little joke thing. I'm still the Nat. We got Ginger. Hope everyone's doing well. I know my boy Dave is a big fan of Sleeping Dogs, which is a game that you did voice
Yeah.
acting
Oh
for.
yeah.
Yeah,
Great game.
what a great game! It's such an underrated game. I feel too because I played it when it came out, and I was blown away by how good it was. I played that for a good few months. We got Bryson Thomas. Here it is. Creator of the underrated slashers. Here we got Mayan. How you doing, May? All right, so we got most people here. People flooded. Hey, everyone can't chat, but I'll be listening. Okay, so Barry, what got you into acting, or did you always know that when did you know that that's what you wanted to do?
Hmm. I think probably started figuring it out in college. I think growing up, I always, in hindsight, was always
Okay.
into it. When I would have like my action figures, I would always have these like amazing scenes because I kind of knew how storytelling would be just from like absorbing it from the movies. I knew that you would have to have what I didn't know that there were names to this, but I know that the first part of the action was showing like your heroes at its best, So I'd have my GI Joes saving the day, show what special talents each other had, and then something happens, like one of them gets kidnapped by the bad guy, and it's like, oh no.
Some
And then
conflict. Yeah.
exactly, and then the ending would be the somehow overcome these insurmountable odds, and that's how I would like play with my action figures, just like absorbing and sort of found out there was actually terms for these kind of things as I got older in high school and college and learning about writing and things like that. So I think it was always in me, but I didn't think that I could do it because I didn't see anybody really that was really Asian that I can be like, oh, that guy,
Yeah.
Bruce Lee is cool, but he doesn't count. Like he's somebody that came from Hong Kong, It's like
Yeah.
a kid who's Asian, who's from the United States, who grew up with, American pop culture, So that is kind of that I didn't really have anybody I can connect to, so I didn't even think about it as being an option.
Now that's funny because I used to do the same thing with action figures and stuff. One of my favorite films is The Last of the Mohicans by
Mm-hmm.
Michael Mann. I
Yeah.
used to act out the last 9 minutes of that movie with,
Yeah.
with on the cliffside, and you
Right.
have
Right.
Wes Studi and fighting with the tomahawks and with my
Yeah.
action figures. I used to do the same thing with the Titanic, the Legos. I build it. I
Oh.
was big into the Titanic
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
sinking of it, so I actually would recreate the
Yeah.
sinking
That's great. Yeah.
with Legos and stuff. So I
Yeah.
definitely relate with that.
Yeah.
And I know that you talk pretty frequently and stuff around the country and stuff about Asian Americans and entertainment and stuff. Is that by chance a reason you went with? Because I know Shrieker was your first film, Full
Shrieker
Moons,
was my first film. Yes.
and that was '96. We said
90. I shot in '96. Came out '97. Yeah.
'97.
Yeah.
So, what are your memories of that first film? Like the audition process, when you got the role, and then just working on it. I mean, Full Moon Picture, they're the king of so
Yeah.
bad they're good
Right.
movies.
Yeah. No. I. Now this was before internet, so I couldn't do much research about it. But then once I remember going in for the audition, they had like, you know, the live casting molds of like all of the films they've done. I'm like, wow, and all these
Oh,
like
okay, wow,
glass
nice.
cases, it was really awesome. you know, so I was playing a lot of catch up, you know, in the waiting room, and then when I got it, kind of like the biggest learning lesson that has followed me to this very day was that I was one of the five leads, I think, in the film.
Yeah.
And in the script, you have your lines, but you don't need to have them all memorized on day one, because you don't shoot everything on day one. You know, you learn kind of, you know, you be familiar and make your choices, but then like there's a schedule that says what they're shooting that day, what's shooting on the next day, and you can prepare accordingly. And but I didn't know that. I didn't know how to read a call sheet, so I just kind of like memorized like everything, and
just scrunched it all in.
I had no idea what they were
Hope
shooting.
for the best.
I was kind of hoping to be ready for anything, you know. And and I remember like day 2, I had like this huge monologue scene where I'm like walking and talking, providing like all the exposition.
I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, and I remember I was just dropping my lines because I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I was like nervous. I kind of knew it, but I wasn't 100% prepared for it. And I remember Dave Dakota, the director, from me saying, "Parry, you know, you're killing us." And granted, it was only like I messed up like 2 times, but like on an independent film like that,
and they're trying to get it done. They're trying to get it done fast on schedule.
On a feature film, it's like you do 40 takes, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But
this is like second one. It's like, all right, come on now, we got to get that done.
You're killing us. We're already behind. So
I just messed up twice.
Exactly. So,
that's funny.
So yeah, that kind of made me learn really quick how to read a call sheet, and now I do that all the time. Like sometimes I remember like jump forward like 10 years later, I was doing another movie called Yes, We're Open, and I had another big monologue scene, and we were shooting so fast that like the director's like, hey, maybe we can grab some from this day, you know, so that we have less. So we were ahead of schedule, and I said, we can keep doing that, but you cannot shoot scene 59, you know, because I'm not ready for that.
You go way too far ahead.
I'm not. I need like a week to work on that big one. So
that's great. So and I mean, I like a lot of full moon movies. Castle Freak stands out as a favorite just because of Barbara Crampton, Jeffrey Combs, and Stuart Gordon. That trio is just like one of my holy grail trios of horror movies.
Right.
And but Shrieker, it's a good one. It's fun. But the reason I brought up when you were talking about being, you know, an Asian American actor is you went by Parry Allen in that film. Was that a conscious decision because of that? Because it, you know, harder to
because
work or anything?
That was a non-union film, so I had to give like not my real name, and I'm a comic fan, so it was like a play off of Barry Allen.
Parry
Allen.
That's great. That's great.
I did the whole Nick Cage thing because Nick Cage is Nick Coppola, but he was a big Marvel fan, so he became, you know, from Luke Cage, he made himself Nicolas Cage. So I'm like, oh, I'll do the same thing. I'll be Parry Allen. No one will ever know.
Well, until they see the picture of Parry Shen and they, this looks like a lot like,
you know, I got a little bit more known, and then people are piecing it together. But,
they put the whole mystery together there.
Right.
It's like my mom's cousin's Alan Alda from MASH. He did the same thing with his last name. It was Alfonso D'Abruzzo, and he took the AL and the DA and made Alda, and that's how his last name was. So you see that often. Any fond memories of Shrieker? I mean, the Shrieker looks cool. Like,
it was just great being with an ensemble cast. You know, just working like that, and everybody just trying to even though, you know, you're limited to whatever production budget you've got, you know. But I just remember everybody working their butts off, you know, making choices and trying to make it the best film, you know, it could be. But then later you have limitations like the Shrieker. I think we only had enough budget for the same Shrieker to come out of the same wall. You know, cut to him coming out of the
little shortcuts and tricks that they got to use for those small movies and stuff. But some of them are good tricks. They're offensive. They're effective.
A great thing that I did learn though was, because a lot of the time in movies, you waste time. It's setting up the lights, right? So we would set up the lights, lighting up every time we would enter a certain doorway of each scene, you know. So we would just have to light it once, and that scene would be wrapped. And so we would have to like change clothes, and we would wrap, different scenes. It was kind of brilliant way
Yeah.
of working. And for any independent filmmakers, that's a very clever way, so that you kind of just shoot out that entryway for the whole shoot. You don't have to waste time.
That makes sense.
Brilliant.
And that's actually, it's cool you brought that up, because I love just Italian horror is a big subgenre of horror for me. I love the Italian
Right.
horror movies from the 70s, 80s, Argento, Lucio
Mhm.
Fulci, Mario Bava, and the lighting in their films is just beautiful and just unbelievable with the colors. So I've always said that to myself, just I can't imagine the work that it takes just for the lighting crew and stuff to be setting up for like those type of movies. Just different lighting colors and stuff for every like shot in the movie.
Right. Yeah. It's
Like,
really, I mean, it's painting with light, it's
yeah,
a skill
that's a
set.
great way of
Yeah.
describing it. So after Shrieker, what was the next thing that you went out for, audition wise?
I think then the next big one was a sitcom, Caroline in the City, with Leah Thompson. That was like September of '97. So like that would have probably been the next one. And then I started doing a whole bunch of because that cast out of NBC, and then like the casting directors, they all kind of like they know each other, or they see who each other's cast, because it was must see TV. So like it was like I started getting on Suddenly Susan, and then other sitcoms and King of Queens, and so that
King of Queens. Actually, my mom, I talked to the other night. She's a huge fan of King of Queens. I told her that I was having you on and stuff, an actor from the Hatchet movies, and she said, I showed a picture. She said, I know him. And she remembered you from King of Queens when you go up to Jerry Stiller.
Yeah.
As the grocery boy.
He's looking for a deal on the big yams. He wants the inside info on the big yams, and on the grocery.
Yeah, something like, yeah. She sent me the clip of it. I was laughing. That's great. So I mean, you got to be on, I had some roles on some big shows at the time.
Yeah, yeah. It was during the kind of like the late '90s. It was kind of like all sitcoms.
Oh yeah, sitcom era. Yeah. I mean, Seinfeld was my show, like my whole family show. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. I quote it every day. So I mean, I remember when that show ended and just the finale for that. But the whole
I remember
90s
trying to get on it so bad. I was like, I knew
oh,
it was about to be
for the finale.
They were ending, and I'm like, I got to get on it before they.
Yeah. That would have been great. I mean, they had so many guests that were just excellent in that show. So that people all bring it up here about the Hatchet films. So you mentioned before we went live, we were talking a little bit, we talked about practical effects. Now, the thing, if you saw my intro there, you'll see a lot of films that are favorites of mine that have heavy practical effects. The Thing by John Carpenter is my favorite film of all time. The practical effects, I think, are absolutely just unreal. When you look at they're like Tom Savini always describes them as doing magic tricks, like for the camera. And what Adam Green was able to do, because by the mid 2000s, I'm not a Scream fan. Like, that's just an unpopular opinion I've always had, and it's just something about it. I just don't care for it. But that was big in the late 90s, and then we kind of had a lack in slashers. And then we ended up having Adam coming after he did Frozen, which is a great thriller movie. Anyone in chat who hasn't seen Frozen by Adam Green, excellent thriller film. And he ends up creating a new horror slasher icon. If you think before the 2000, like past the 2000s, it's only Victor Crowley and now Art the Clown because of the Terrifier films.
It definitely gravitated to something else for a while. It became very like ironic and very meta with
very meta and self-aware.
With the Scream, right? Pointing out tropes that were in certain horror films, and then it became just very super realistic, which Adam has the term, or other people too. It became like kind of like more torture porn,
that kind of. So I never liked that term. It's just the same with elevated horror today and stuff. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. If it's well written, it's well written.
Definitely throwback to kind of like when it became popular in like the 80s. That's what ours, Adam was trying to get to doing to. have some comedy also infused in it, you know, and practical effects.
That's a great part of it. The Hatchet series is a favorite slasher series of mine, and one reason for that is the practical effects, of course. Like the kills are absolutely phenomenal in all of the Hatchet films, but the comedy, because we were saying before we went live, I'm a big stand-up comedy fan. George Carlin is my favorite of all time. Anthony Jeselnik and Mitch Hedberg, and all these geniuses. So I'm always been a comedy fan, and the comedy mix with the horror in the Hatchet films, he finds such a great balance between horror and comedy, because it's very hard to find that perfect balance.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of horror fans who don't care for comedy in their horror.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the way that he writes his comedy, that's why I said with Victor Crowley, it's my favorite in the series with the first one. Mostly just because of you and Felissa Rose and Dylan. I forget his name, Dylan's actor.
Right. Yeah.
What's the actor's name? It always slips my mind.
Shoot, now.
Yeah, I know that. Like, I had a feeling maybe it would slip yours too. We'll call Dylan for just for this purposes.
Now I've got him saying, "Hey, I'm Dylan."
Yeah. Hey, I'm Christopher. Walk.
Dave Sheridan.
Dave Sheridan. That's it.
Don't do that to me.
If he ever sees this, he's gonna be like, Parry.
Yeah, Dave's watching this, like, hey, let me see what Parry's up to.
Yeah, he doesn't even remember my damn name. But the three of you guys, and the first watch of that film, first watch or two, it wasn't landing with me, the comedy, as much. For some reason, maybe it was the mood I was in or something, but by the third watch or so, and I've seen this movie a lot of times, all the Hatchet movies, but especially Victor Crowley, just everything with Dylan's character clicked completely. And then just you and Felissa Rose is just... So just the chemistry you guys had. How was working with Felissa? Like, because that was your film. It was your movie, Victor Crowley.
Yeah,
like, you're the lead there.
It became a deathocracy. There was no one else left, so I was like the only guy to be the main guy. But yeah, I think that one for me blended the comedy and the horror the best, in my opinion.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
And with working with Felissa was, it's great. She's like game for anything, I remember we just like coming up with stuff and then she'd just be game to go. Like I said, like if all your pills are on the ground, and you
that's great.
It's like, she's like,
where are they? Like, everywhere.
All of them everywhere. So,
did you guys get a chance were you able to improv a decent bit, or was it mostly sticking to the script?
Well, we would improv not necessarily on the spot because, we don't want to waste time. But before
you would like think of idea. Okay.
Yeah, we would think of an idea, be like, oh, like, could we do this? And then so that Adam could be prepared to maybe find the best angle or maybe, tweak what we were thinking to make it funnier, So yeah, we would do that. Those would be that kind of improvisation. Nothing that would be just kind of like, hey, let's just see what the hell happens, because that messes a a lot of departments up. Lighting, all of a sudden you're over there.
Oh yeah, just in case you're not on point. You're not doing good with the improv. Then it's going to disturb a lot of things. You got to
be considerate, So I think that's the kind of there was improvisation in that sense.
Nice. Because I always wondered that, because maybe it's just how well you guys like the dynamic and chemistry on screen, but just so many, every line out of your mouth, out of Felissa's mouth is just when you're on the show.
What I was really most proud of that was that I think we were falling behind each day. So like each day we were losing like an hour. So by the time it was the last day, we were behind like a lot of pages, which is like, I think we had to shoot like 24 pages, and each day you kind of shoot like maybe 7. So we were like almost like 3 times behind, and we had to get it out before the sun was,
Oh yeah, you're filming all at night for all these movies, pretty much.
And I remember everybody, it was a big scene, a lot of camera work, logistics, and I remember at the end of the day we got it all, and it's because everybody was just so prepared. Everybody was on their A game, no messing around, and just like, it was so impressive that we're just knocking off all these pages, and doing good scenes and doing good work. So it was amazing.
And that the budget was a lot lower on that one, I think, than the other 3. And I think it's amazing how well he wrote to the budget for Victor Crowley. We see it takes place in the plane for a lot of it, but it doesn't feel any like less of a budget, of a production than the other movies.
Right.
I feel like it fits absolutely perfect as a
Yeah.
follow-up to 3. And then, like you said, the comedy, I think there's the best mix between the comedy and the horror. So getting ahead with Victor Crowley, let's go with Hatchet. When you first, how did you get approached? Did you were just audition? Did you happen to know someone who knew Adam, maybe? Or
Right. It's interesting. I found out more about this like recently of how I just thought it was just a random audition. I did well, knocked it out of the park, but I did Adam's a scary sleepover, and we kind of had more of a heart to heart, and he basically said the role was mine to lose because they were already big fans from Better Luck Tomorrow, a movie that I'd done maybe a couple of years prior to coming in. So they had seen it and thought that and kind of like thought I'd be perfect for this. And they didn't know whether, I guess, if I could do some comedy. And I loved the material. I loved him switching accents. And I was like, there's just some things that sometimes when you read something, it doesn't take a lot of work. You're like, you just zone in, you click, like, I know this character. And becomes really easy.
It feels like it was already implanted in you, right? Like it feels like you, what you just said. It's like you're reading something. It's like, all right, I know exactly how this is supposed to work, or what I'm supposed to do.
Things like I could just sleight of hand, so I had like him making a coin disappear, that kind of stuff, and just those kind of things. And so and then I remember the second time, the callback. I tried to get a little too clever because I said I'm from Boston, and then so I do a Bostonian accent in between the Asian accent, and I remember like no laughs at all. Like he's like, and Adam's like, could you just do what you did the first time? Because now all of a sudden he has his investors and all the other producers like,
it's like, can you drop that Boston accent a little bit?
You're gonna love him,
That's all. That's funny. How is that? I mean, he just seems like such a just genuinely just down to earth person. I've seen like interviews,
so
behind the scenes stuff. He seems like a little kid in a candy store when he's filming scenes, and he gets the scene right. He's just like, screw like he's
and I love tossing ideas out that work, because then he starts giggling. He's like, yeah, let's do that, and that's the best feeling.
So is that how did it come about after the first Hatchet? So we got the first Hatchet. Those slasher fans of us who were huge into the 80 slashers, practical effects, we were in heaven with the kills in that movie.
Right.
And how was it being killed by Victor Crowley, by Kane Hodder for the first time in the first movie? You get the shovel kill, you get your leg cut off, and then the head. How is that with getting killed in a movie?
That was great. I mean, it just, you see all these things and behind the scenes of making a horror movie, of doing the live casting of your head and all that kind of stuff. So it was cool just to be able to do all that stuff, and knowing how it feels like to have it's all cold, and all of a sudden it gets very heavy very quickly, in the next couple of minutes, so it was just, and then to have the legendary Kane Hodder working with him, and just having him, his thing was that he wanted us to not see him until he killed our character. To see him in costume, because otherwise we'd get desensitized. That was a great, it only helped us out. The less acting we have to do, the better.
Sure. So, as soon as you see that face, that beautiful face only a mother could love, and the first time
breathing and go in the background, you're like, oh my god.
That's great. We got a little super chat here from Man. Thank you so much, Man. Thank you for being here, Parry, and best of luck in your career. I see your face almost every day on my TV because of Hatchet. Any new projects coming? I'll ask that near the end, May. We get some questions from everybody, and we'll talk some new stuff. But thanks so much, May. That means a lot. Same with Russell. We have Russell. Parry, this 67-year-old loves your channel, your YouTube channel, and the Hatchet films. Thank you so much, Russell. That's awesome. So after Hatchet 1, you played, the character in this, and you came back for the twin brother, which is just a great gag in and of itself. The way that Adam brought you back every movie is just better and better with each one. The reason. So I'm guessing he just called you back, said we're doing a second one. Like you're playing the twin?
Yeah, because we had mentioned that he had a brother, so he says, he just likes working with his actors that he's kind of vetted and worked with, and so he's like, oh, it's a shame that Perry died, and then later, and he says, it's a shame that you die in the first one. I'm like, well, he said you said he had a brother.
So you did pitch it. Did you pitch it?
He
That's
wasn't a
great.
twin, and so yeah, brought him back, and this time he has a French accent that he does, and
I love it. It's so funny.
Adam didn't even know
The way
I
you
could do a
change
French.
the accents
Yeah,
throughout the
he just
first
did it.
ones too.
I just figured it out during the table read because we're reading the line with all the other actors, and I see, the narrator's like, Justin speaks with a French accent, and then my line, I'm like, oh ho ho, I'm like I don't
know. That's funny. And this whole series, the Hatchet franchise, is just a smorgasbord of horror legends. So and how many of them were you? I'm trying to think in my head, like as I go, like who you were in scenes with specifically, but I'm sure you met most of them and stuff. It's just Tom Holland, Tony Todd,
right.
Robert Englund is in the first one, Josh Leonard from Blair Witch Project. It goes on and on.
I met them all, maybe not in the scenes, but like when we would hit conventions or like promoting the film, we all I got to meet them all. So yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that's got to be something, just meeting just one after another, just horror legends like that.
Absolutely.
And great for Adam. That he's able to get all of them, especially
this is working with people you grew up watching, and say, oh my gosh, I got him, I got her, it's
not like we were saying earlier before we went live. That's how I feel when I have great people like you and others on the channel here, because then it's like I'm watching these movies and stuff my whole life, or since they come out and stuff, and now I'm here to talk with this person. So I definitely understand that. But that had to be great. Tony Todd is just absolutely legendary. Robert Englund was only in the little of the first one, but he has great stuff. Adam just hit gold, I think, with every cameo that he's gotten throughout all the Hatchet films. So then we have Hatchet III, and you come back because you're the paramedic Andrew Young, and one of the guys points out that your old Justin's body from the second movie, and then you say the great line that we all look the same, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's the way. Down, did you pitch that way of coming back to Adam, or was that his idea?
I did.
I was thinking so.
He would find body part, and I said, he had something along there that hinted towards it, and I just kind of like went all the way and just said, because we all look the same, right? And then he added on, and then say it's hilarious because it's a callback from when I say it in the first film. So yeah, it was really cool collaboration, and to see it come out like that, and then watching the audience's reaction as they're piecing
when they get they get that line, they're like, oh, okay, that's how it makes sense. That's why he's back again.
We all look the same. No, he really looks like you.
It's like it almost could be a triplet like of the other two. So that one, I love all four movies pretty much almost equally. 3 might be my least favorite. Just it has more of an action feel. I feel like it's more like Predator versus Victor Crowley, which is fine. I just prefer the other 3.
Right. Although I was curious to see how Victor was going to hold up with some like real people who could fight back.
Yeah, huge heavy artillery.
So that satiated my curiosity. Like,
that definitely does, because you see him manhandling. It's just like 5 like SWAT team people at the same time. He's just throwing 5 people off the screen. Kane is, I think, pretty much the only person I can think of who is now portrayed 2 slasher icons.
In
his career. Victor Crowley and Jason, which speaking of Jason, I'm gonna have CJ Graham on Monday from part 6 Friday.
Awesome.
So that'll be fun to actually talk to Jason and hear Jason talk.
Right.
He doesn't talk ever. But
he's just gonna be silent the whole.
That's the whole stream is just gonna be 60 minutes of me talking. Like remember that Arsenio Hall interview with Jason back in like the 80s, right? Takes Manhattan, I think. He came on the show and he just same thing. Arsenio Hall is asking him questions, and he's just staring at him with the hockey. That's what it's gonna be. But I'm pretty sure CJ knows he learned how to talk since then, so it should work out. So then we have Victor Crowley, the movie. So this was the longest gap in between them. So how did that come about? Did Adam just call you and say, I finally have an idea, I have a script, in mind?
Pretty much, because we thought that 3 was it, and he had
Yeah.
said 3 was it, and then I mean, I guess on the set as we were shooting it, because he was only the writer on that, and he was just there to observe because he was
On
doing
3.
Holliston. And I remember him saying, he goes, I remember a glimmer in his head of an idea. He's like, because we end it like this, we're gonna end it like this, but if we were to do a 4th, it would have to be all about you, like pointing to me,
Because like you said, the last one alive. I mean.
Yeah, it had to be about you. And then sure enough, after that big gap, he said, I think I have, some inspiration, I got an idea. So, and that was like, it was amazing. And it all fell in place. So, happens 10 years after, the thing, in terms of timeline. It's like
those little happy accidents that just, it all falls into place at the right time.
Right. It's great.
And I mean, when you heard that Felissa Rose was going to be in it and stuff, what was it like? Just like knowing you're going to work with Felissa Rose, like,
right?
She just seems like the nicest person ever. She's such a sweetheart.
Adam, because we shot this in secret. First of all, nobody knew that we were shooting.
I remember that because I had a friend who went to a screening of it when it first came out, and Adam was there, and he was talking about wanting to show the film to Romero before he passed away and stuff. So I remember that it was a secret shot that you guys were shooting this movie.
Yeah, that screening was supposed to actually be a 10-year anniversary showing the first one, and we did not show the first one. We showed, you're not going to be watching a whole one we shot in secret. And but so we it was very hush hush. And I remember I was working with Felissa doing Adam's fundraiser that he does for Yorkies every year, and we were doing a reading of The Goonies, the original script, because the original Mikey was Asian and was a fan of General Hospital, and I'm on that show, and so he's like, you have to play. So I remember Felissa was playing Mrs. Forelli, the throw mom.
That's great.
And I knew that she was in it. No, I knew that I was in it. She knew that she was going to be in Victor Crowley, and we were like kind of darting around, like, because she's like, oh, I'll see you, next week, like for the Victor Crowley table read. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, what are you talking about? Like,
trying to keep that secret. Yeah, that whole secret and everything. That's great. And I mean, Felissa just from Sleepaway Camp, and with that, I just did a video on just my 20 horror endings, and I mean the ending to Sleepaway Camp. Nobody has ever seen that movie.
She's actually going to do a convention.
I just saw it. Yeah, that's so cool. I saw it on her Instagram. I said, man, that's going to be something, like, for her to be in that prosthetic and from the ending.
Line up.
Oh, absolutely. I know she's in London. She said she wanted we were going to cover it up, surprise you, but she's in London and stuff. I was going to have her maybe pop on near the end or something like that, and hey, stuff. So she said she'll let me know when she gets back and stuff. But she said have a great time. She said say hi to you, of course. But it's just the whole thing between you two in that movie is fantastic. And what was it like meeting Q from Impractical Jokers? Because I was a big fan of that show, and I met him very briefly, but I got to talk with Sal and Murr because they shoot on Long Island every now and then because they're from Staten Island. Yeah. So I heard that they were shooting an episode in the mall near me. I drove out there, wasn't doing anything, and I met them. They're hysterical, and Q is just an hysterical guy, great actor. Like, what was working with him?
Yeah, I think all of us were huge fans of him and the show, and he kind of flipped it on us because he was such a big fan of the Hatchet.
Oh, yeah.
He was so stoked to be there, and so it was, and then both of us are huge comic fans, so we bonded on that level too, and talking comics on set, and then and just it was fun watching because he's also was a big Friday the 13th fan, and so I remember like Kane has his hand busted through the glass in the airplane, and he's reaching to grab Q, and Q is like smiling the whole time when he's supposed to be terrified. And
I could just picture
Q, you can't be smiling, but he was having so much fun. He's like I can't believe this is happening to me.
You could see how the fun and just the excitement in his performance there. Just and his whole what he says to you, and the great recurring gag that you have through every movie is it's hilarious.
Yeah.
When he says the whole "you really were there and you saw that Vincent
Yeah.
Crosby guy."
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
he improv that line of Vincent Crosby, or did Adam write that?
Adam wrote that, but
Okay, because
he
it
did
sounds
it.
like something Q might just come
Yeah.
up with on the spot. But yeah, that's great, Vincent Crosby.
Q came up with a brilliant thing that we worked in because we kind of forgot the logistics of like what holes were being blown out during the descent of the plane,
Okay.
and we're trying to we're trying to bust the window out, and we realized that a guy flew out the window, so there's a hole in that window, and Q's like,
asshole,
why don't I just
open
say,
one there.
well, there's one over there. What about that hole over there? And the camera whips, pans over there.
That's
That's what I'm talking about. The improvisation. Then Adam's telling camera guy, our DP, to like flip the camera. I mean, it was an awesome joke, But Adam was like, "Oh my gosh,
I love that.
Of course."
That's such a great one. Just asshole. It's an
Yeah.
open one
It's
over there.
open
Then
there.
his response, Dylan's response, he's like, "Yeah, but I know the area, the cell
Yeah.
service is better on this
The
set."
cell towers on that set.
Like it's such a great character. I probably prefer the first half of the movie because of the comedy and stuff to the
Yes.
second half of the movie, and that's very rare for a horror
Right.
comedy for sure.
Yeah.
We have someone here in this, so this is a good segue into General Hospital, which I've seen it here and there. Never been a fan of it or watch it, but Michael Fox here. Anything you tell us about General Hospital? I like how Parry got cast, and if you will ever be back again as Brad. I know Brad Cooper, not Bradley Cooper, but Brad Cooper.
Cooper, yeah. It's that one I got almost like 10 years ago, and I remember just going in for an audition. I didn't think I was going to get it because I didn't know anybody that was Asian people that were on soaps, So I remember the waiting room was like a bunch of these really tall model guys, typical soap guys, and I remember just thinking, there's no way I can compete on that level. All I could do is really just like act all these guys. That's the only thing I can do, And that was kind of liberating, I think, because then I was like, I didn't think I was going to get it. I wasn't nervous about the possibility of getting it, and so I just kind of just let it rip and do whatever I was going to do, and then half an hour later, I got the call saying, "Hey, you got it." And
half hour later, wow. Great.
And then he was sort of like a smarmy guy, and I was like, it was supposed to be only 4 episodes, and then I was thinking that there wasn't any definitive ending, because every time I did a television show, it would be an arc, like he was supposed to die in episode 3 or something like that,
and then things change and stuff. Like, let's do this and keep them around longer because of this.
Yeah, I was like, if I do something interesting, they might just keep using me. So I just did things that they. I think I added a lot of humor to in a platform that wasn't used to seeing a lot of humor because it's so dramatic. But I mean, I would improv in the sense of the reality of the situation. Like if I'm was talking to myself, like how a lot of people in soaps do, I would go, kind of like point that out. Like, why am I talking to myself? Something like that, just little things.
Yeah.
And I think people appreciated that different.
I think that's probably why you got the call in so fast, because maybe you're right. That's not something you see in soaps too often. And that's definitely something original that you were able to bring to it. Aston here is asking, what scene do you audition with, if you remember General Hospital?
The scene was I was supposed to be bribing this doctor who wanted me to switch some. I'm play a lab tech, switch some results, but I kind of make an indecent proposal, be like, hey, if we can hook up, maybe I can do this thing for you. And I thought that it was, because it was very generic, so I thought it was a female doctor, and so I tried to play, and then I found out that and it could have been, but my character was cast as a gay character, and I was like, oh, I guess that helped me because it made me kind of not think of being, kind of like what I would how I would alter my performance instead of just making a real performance of how I would bribe somebody in that situation, that scenario. So that became more real, I guess. And they liked the performance, and Now it was extended. I think it's like close to 300 episodes now.
That's my next question was going to be, yeah, how many episodes? So over close to 300. Wow. So,
Yeah, about
and
like 280 something.
that show's been on since when? General Hospital.
We
That's been
just
on forever.
celebrated 60 years last year, so this
60
is our
years.
61st year.
Yes, I knew it was something 50 plus at least, but yeah, wow, 60 years.
Yeah.
And so it's been 10 years since you've been on it. Was it 2013?
Yeah.
I think is when
2013 I got on it, so it's been over 10 years. Yeah, I've been off
yeah.
it for about a year. They kind of
And then you came back, right?
I'm not dead or anything. I'm just kind of just hanging around in the neighborhood, but I'm not on screen.
You're moonlighting is some other profession and stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, is there any plans on? You came back to it after that a little bit, or are you planning on coming back to it, or any plans on that?
Whenever they wanna work me back in, I do have kind of like a character that's on the show that it plays my aunt on the show, and so yeah, they can always have us. You know, she's always been trying to get me into she's a mobster, so she's trying to get my character into the business, but he doesn't really know that's the business. So I would love for them to explore that. You know.
Well, that's something to look forward to for sure. And yeah, since it's 61 years, I mean that's crazy and it's incredible. Same with like Saturday Night Live. Just look how long that's been around. It's almost around the same time, 70s or so. Just some of these shows that just never end.
Yeah.
And so let's talk the voice acting. How did you get into the voice acting? Do you remember what was the first thing that you voice acted for, whether it be a game or any type of voice acting?
I think I knew some people who were doing a lot of voiceover acting, and I just knew that that was something I didn't have any experience with, and so I started taking some classes to like tweak the acting technique, because you do have to have a little bit of the acting's the same, but like an instructor said, you know, if I take pauses during a performance, at least the camera can see that my eyes are thinking about something, but your character on an animation, if you're not talking, the mouth is just hanging open. You know,
you don't get that same. Yeah, exactly.
You got to find a way to expedite that, but still make it a grounded performance. So that was tweaking that stuff. So I did that, and then I think like very shortly I got Sleeping Dogs, the video game, which was kind of like this. It was kind of like that
Grand Theft Auto.
Like The Departed, because it's like an undercover cop going into
exactly. You know, that's a good analogy for it.
The Triad Underground, and I play the boss. I basically play like the Jack Nicholson character who doesn't know that he's invited this cop into his world, and he's taking him under his wing and becoming friends and things like that. And I think I got that because I can speak Cantonese, and it took place in Hong Kong, and I could pepper my performance with Cantonese and in and out with English.
I remember it. Yeah, you go in and out of it.
Yeah, so I think that's because voiceover is very specific. They like working in their small world, and until you have something unique that they don't have, which was speaking Cantonese, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, what else can you do? And it becomes like less about being, you know, speaking Cantonese. Now I'm kind of like reading for all roles now.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you can do this. Well, what else can you do? All right, because we can use this for something else.
Right. That's great. So that's kind of Sleeping Dogs was kind of like my foothold into the world of voice acting.
So that was the first video game that you did voice acting for Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah, the main one.
That is a great game. People in the chat who don't know, it's like a Grand Theft Auto set in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
With a lot more focus on martial arts.
Yeah.
And it's such a great game. Like
a lot of great characters. Yeah.
The story is written great. The voice acting is great by everybody. I mean, a very, very underrated game. So then you did a few others. You did Far Cry 3. I forget which character you did in Far Cry 3.
I honestly can't remember. I think it was just like a small character. I can't remember.
Like an NPC or something.
Ones. Yeah.
Okay. Because then I know Mortal Kombat 10 and Mortal Kombat, the newest one, you do Takeda.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did that come about? Because I've been a Mortal Kombat fan since I was a kid.
Right. That came from Sleeping Dogs. The guy who Dom, who's the director, he saw behind the scenes me talking, because in Sleeping Dogs, my voice is very different. I'm talking like this. I'm a real heavy, but he
I
kind of just heard
remember.
my normal speaking voice, and he
Mhm.
kind of had that in mind for Takeda, who was kind of like a wise ass, has a lot of quips, So he
Yeah.
just wanted me to up that a little bit more for Takeda, and so yeah, and then later they skipped him in 11, and then for
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 1 brought him back, and yeah, for the
I still got
DLC.
I still got to play the new one, Mortal Kombat 1, because I have played X, I have 11, and I just never got around to getting the other one. I'm a big Dark Souls fan. You ever play the Dark Souls games?
I have not.
Those are I challenge on them and do all crazy level 1
Yeah,
challenges that 20 masochistic other people on the planet do.
yeah, it's a
Those-
slippery slope. I have to like choose my games because I have a very addictive personality with that stuff.
I'm the same way.
I will be all in and like not sleep, and
Yep.
so it's like I
Yep.
need to choose very carefully what I decide to commit my like next month.
Yeah,
24/7.
I'm the same way. It's like maybe cause since I got so big into those series of games and doing challenge runs of them and stuff, it's almost like a little science, like doing things with restrictions and stuff. So then I'll try maybe 3 or 4 new games a year, and I'll get maybe a quarter of the way through each of them,
Right.
half of the way through them. But
Yeah.
if like I'm the same way, if there's a game that's really like a great game, then I gotta clear my schedule, like
Yeah.
free schedule
It's
forever.
like, no more sitting down this
Yeah,
month.
yeah, exactly. It's like,
Sorry.
all right, it's all gonna be this. Like, it's
Yeah.
just that's the mindset. Ghost of Tsushima is a game I
Yes.
did not get to play, but that's another one that you did some voice acting for.
Yes.
What do you do in that one?
That one actually, it was a storyline where I played the brother of the main character, and apparently that storyline is not there any longer. Like I
Really?
recorded a lot,
So they cut
but
that whole.
they cut
I
it
guess it was a
all
quest
out.
or something, right? An NPC
So
quest.
they put the random things, I think, like just like generic noises, maybe some death noises because
Yeah,
the character dies. So like
it's
they
just
use
like the
yeah, they use
here and there.
things that I've done during this what I recorded, but like there was some like real touching stuff of him, like he was kind of like the loser older brother, and there was like a whole like sub story of that. So that was what I was, and I was excited to see the game come out, and then I'm
Yeah.
like hearing people play. I'm like, did you hear me? Am I in this game? And like,
It's like I didn't hear
do you have a
Parry's
brother?
voice anyway.
No. I'm like,
That
oh,
that's
okay.
kind of that's a shame when they can, and it kind of reminds me of with practical effects work in movies where you hear a lot of like behind the scenes stuff where practical effects artists will say that we built this whole thing and spent weeks on it, and then
Right.
we
Yeah.
see it in the finished film and they only use 5 seconds of it.
Honestly, when I hear the end, actually see the end result,
Yeah.
and then I'm still in it. That's when I get excited because I'm like, at any point, you can be replaced very easily for whatever
Oh
reason,
yeah.
not your fault.
Mhm.
But I kind of like I do the job. I'm like, okay, but there's always in the back of my head. I don't really tell people that I'm in it until I actually see it. Like I didn't tell anybody I was Takeda until I saw it. I saw my name in the credits. And
Yeah.
saw the DLC.
I'm the same way with things. So you don't want to say anything until I know 100%.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Great.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, okay, good. Minute. All right, good. Now I can start saying, yeah, this is a
Yeah.
game. Go check it out. You'll hear my voice.
Yeah.
Well, and what other games have you voice acted for? Any I'm missing or forget?
The Walking Dead.
Oh,
Michelle.
one of the the story games, like the Telltale games.
Telltale ones.
Okay.
Yeah, with the different endings and stuff like that. That
Yeah.
one was really fun because that one you're doing the performance over and over again, but in different ways depending on the choices that the player makes.
Yeah.
So
That's
was
that's
really
gonna be
fun.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
I never got to those games. I gotta play
they're
at
pretty
least
fun. Yeah.
the first one or two because this is like a few seasons that they
Yeah.
like released him as. So I got to go back and check that out, especially knowing you did who you voice act in it.
Basically, this story takes place like in the show The Walking Dead. At a certain point, Michonne kind of leaves the show
Okay.
for a part. And this game covers what had happened in between that and her coming back.
Okay, when she leaves.
Dimension.
Okay.
So
that
she
makes
meets
sense.
me, who kind of like, is just, a guy trying to survive, and just like, but she doesn't know if you don't know if you can trust anybody, because everybody's trying to, like, others has ulterior motives, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I say read this. I'm in the movie Mean Girls, and I didn't expect to be in the foreground. Like, there I am. So
Telltale
what
Series.
would you say is your favorite performance of yourself? Like, your favorite project you've worked on, like, movie wise?
Movie wise, would that one's tough. Well, Better Luck Tomorrow will always be near and dear to my heart, because that was kind of like the first movie that I got to be the lead in, and I've never been able to do that, because it's like it always had been like a snippet, a minor character in a movie, whereas this one challenged me for every ounce of my core of every acting lesson that I've done, and
yeah, I mean, well, because the focus is on you.
Yeah,
it's a much bigger focus.
That was great, and with the same sense, then so was Victor Crowley, because I was one of the main focus of that.
Oh yeah,
so that was great too. Just trying to like have what he's gone through in the third movie to bring that over into the fourth movie. Like, he's this more experienced guy telling these guys who are like, "Who's Victor Crowley? Who's Victor Crosby?" And I'm like, take this shit seriously.
Yeah, like, he's like, this thing is real.
Yeah.
And I love at the show interview with your ex-wife and Victor Crowley, and you say I was, of course, exonerated and stuff, and then and you go, "Thank you, man." It's just one woman.
That was my. I suggest that to
did you see? That's
I'm like,
dude,
hey,
that's
Adam,
great. That's so funny.
Clap. It's only one person clapping.
Yeah, then you notice there's like a second or two after the clap starts. You think maybe it's the whole clap. Thank you, man. All of that is great. The book signing. I mean, Chase Williamson's a great actor too.
Oh yeah.
I've seen he's been in a few great horror movies, but his whole line of when she says, "I can't believe I'm gonna have the Andrew Young like in possibly in my movie," and said, "Yeah, who the fuck is that?"
I love the way he says
what
that.
I know. He says it so great.
Passionate.
And Laura Ortiz looks like she like almost cracked up in front. I was working with her. She's a doll. She just seems like a real blast to work with.
Yeah, she's so great, so funny.
Even if she has a dick.
Yeah. Don't have.
That's the thing from earlier. Just that's what I mean. I can quote every line from that movie. It's just the comedy works so brilliantly in the fourth film. That is there any talks or any ideas for a Hatchet 5 that you could?
Yeah, I mean, Adam has said that he sets up the fourth one for the possibility. It's there. Everybody's ready.
Oh yeah.
Kind of the characters are kind of like ready to go.
And with the infamous just cut ending, like every one of the Hatchet films, just shock ending cut and then heavy metal credits.
I think it's more like, as you said, like we had less money, and but you still, it doesn't give you excuse to make it look less grand or ambitious than the previous one, right? It's got to even look even more ambitious, and we probably wouldn't get a great budget. So I think it's that the challenge of writing something that can work with a budget
I think that really shows the greatness in a writer writing a script, and when they can write to their budget. Because I've watched, I've had a few people send me early screenings of their first movie, independent horror movies and stuff like that, and you're watching them, and you'll see immediately right away that some people know how to write to their budget or they don't. If you have whatever X amount of dollar low budget, you don't want to be putting like big explosions and crazy effects and stuff like that in your movie. It seems like common sense, but some people don't realize that at first.
Right.
Some people do, and that's one thing I look for when I look for watch independent movies and stuff, that how well they write to their budget, because it's a big thing. Because for me, the script is always the most important thing in a film. But let's go into the chat. We got questions here. Do you own all of your movies, like DVDs?
I think I do. I think I have all of my films.
Cool. I would have all mine too. So that makes sense. Would you do a remake of Hatchet with the General
General Hospital cast.
Hospital cast? That's great.
Yeah, that's
I don't know what to think of that right now.
yeah. It's hard to believe in a sequel with the original cast. I don't know.
Let
It's
alone a
funny.
whole different show's cast.
I tried to get a lot of my GH cast to the secret screening of Victor Crowley, and I said, hey, I've been on the, they've known me for years on General Hospital. I'm like, if you want to see me in a different vein, I've been part of this horror franchise, and the audience doesn't know they're going to see this movie. I think it'll be fun for you to see it, and to experience the audience's reaction too. And
That's great.
same answer from almost all my cast members, where they're like, I just can't watch horror movies. I'm too scared. I'm like,
like
no one really a horror. There's a lot of you try to explain it, but if they're not up for it, so I'm not sure.
Some people, once you hear like horror movie and they're not a horror fan, especially
the only one that would want to do it is this guy named Mark Lawson, who played Dustin on General Hospital, and but he knew me from Hatchet, like.
Okay.
He's a huge horror fan.
So
when he saw me on thing, he was like, "Hey man, I know who you are." I'm like, "Huh?" And just like it's like for me 2 different worlds. I don't expect anybody to know me from either or. And
it's like separate.
I was like, "Oh, dude." So Mark would definitely be up for it.
As we have someone who says that Mark Lawson is a sweetheart.
Yes.
Hey Parry, what is your favorite horror movie? That's a good question. I was going to ask that. Or you can go with some of your favorites. That way you're not right on the spot.
Yeah. I've been saying for a long time, and I think it still is. Shaun of the Dead.
That's a great one. Edgar Wright,
it combines the horror and the comedy,
Mm-hmm. That's another one that does it extremely well.
Where he's like, I crack up. I rewind all the time. Him when he doesn't realize the apocalypse has happened, and he's walking in the convenience store, and he slips on that blood.
and he still doesn't. He's so oblivious to the fact.
Oh, great!
It's
moments.
That's another brilliant example of a movie, the horror comedy that picks the balance perfectly in it. That is just the right amount of. I feel like that one's a little more comedy. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially if we're talking like comparing it to the Hatchet series. A lot more comedy, but it works phenomenally, and that's a huge cult classic at this point. Everybody loves Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Let's see. Everybody else, if you got questions, let's hear them because I don't want to take up too much of your time, Parry. This has been awesome. So, does Adam have, like you were saying? So it's possible we have it all set up for a Hatchet 5,
right?
I guess maybe he's thinking of it's just the script. I'm guessing. Is what it is,
and then the budget and figuring how to execute it correctly.
Because I think now more than ever, especially with the whole Terrifier explosion with the second Terrifier movie with Art the Clown. Now, I think Victor Crowley has to make a little epic comeback because he's got some competition in the brutal killing department.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I'm ready.
I'm ready too. I would love to have you back in it. I'd love to see Victor Crowley up there again, killing more people. I guess it's just up for Adam to come up with that story, which I have no doubt he will come up with something just excellent, and it'll work 100%. Let's see. So if anybody else doesn't have any questions, just here's like a last minute roundup. If you guys want to get something. Oh, my friend Joe earlier, I can't forget this. He's a huge Danielle Harris fan. How was working with Danielle Harris in the Hatchet sequels?
Great. It's funny that the second one I worked with, third one I didn't work with at all because she's like her character's in prison.
Then she goes on the ride with Dee Wallace.
Interact.
Not Dee Wallace, Caroline Williams.
Yeah, but the second one is when I worked with her the most. It was great, and I think I admired most that because she was coming in replacing an actor. So but she just kind of went in and did her own thing, and made it her own. So I have nothing but kudos and props to her.
Yeah,
play a strong
Danielle is
character.
is my friend Joe's favorite actress. So yeah, I made sure had to bring it up and ask about Danielle Harris, how it was working with her. She seems like a sweetheart. I reached out to her last year. I didn't. Maybe I got to do it again this year. Who do you want to work with? That's a good question. Who would you? Yeah, what are some like dream people for you to work with?
Who would I want to work with? Oh, um, Quentin Tarantino. Yeah,
Great
Quentin
choice.
Tarantino. Yeah,
Great choice.
I would love to you speak some of that dialogue that he's so good
Yeah.
with, and some of these wacky scenes, but
Oh yeah, absolutely.
compelling scenes as well. You know, it's like
He's
that. Just it's
he's up there for directors with me with
yeah,
Tarantino. I mean, The Glorious Bastards is
yeah.
my favorite film by him.
Me too. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
like he says in the end, well, like Brad Pitt says, I think this might be my masterpiece. I think he had a feeling because he was trying to make that movie for like a decade plus, and but before he finally got around to doing it.
Yeah, I
And
love that
I
scene
think,
in the bar. I was just telling because I'm
oh,
getting my
it's so suspenseful.
younger daughters into movies that now they are
Oh, nice.
old enough to watch now, because before it's like all the fun stuff, Back to the Future, Star Wars. Now
Yeah,
it's like Leon the Professional and Pulp Fiction. And
yeah,
they're
like
like,
actually like great cinema that you
yeah.
can. That's the same thing when my daughter just turned 10 on the
Mm,
25th. So I've gotten her to see Titanic. She actually watched the whole
yeah.
movie, 3 hours of Titanic. I was
Did
surprised.
she love it?
Yeah, she really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I tried Jurassic Park with her, and she liked the dinosaurs, but then it kind of lost interest a little bit. So still at
Mhm.
the age a little that she's not. I mean, she'll watch SpongeBob for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like any like adult movies, I guess like in a kid's mind, there's a few that I've shown her, but that's what I'm looking forward to is
Yeah.
when she gets a little older and I can start
Yeah.
showing her some of these.
Try Ocean's 11. My youngest daughter loves that. She watches it
That's a
all the
good
time
one. Yeah, that's a good movie.
now.
I'll take that
Yeah,
advice.
that's a
I'll add
nice
that to the
transition.
list. Yeah, those you got to find those. Yeah, like Gremlins. I think was one I wanted to
Yeah, and it's
introduce her to.
surprisingly inappropriate.
Yeah, yeah, I
It's
know.
like
And you
they,
wouldn't think it, because then when I
it's
think to myself, though, I say,
yeah, because
I've been watching this stuff since I'm 6. These horror
I
movies.
watched I worked with Zach Galligan in the third one. I'm like, oh, I just worked with this guy who plays Billy, and I'm like,
Yeah,
as they're talking about the Santa getting stuck in the chimney, I'm like, oh my god,
that's such a
I don't
depressing
remember
scene.
this.
And then the sequel of Gremlins too. She has that other monologue, Phoebe Cates. I forget who she mentions in that, but it's another like depressing story, and they're making
Right.
fun of it from the first movie. But I think that's a good like. Even though yeah, it is. It has some scenes and it creeped me out as a kid. I feel that's a more family friendly horror movie to
Right.
show her a younger one. But all right. So with all those questions, if anybody's got any left, this is your last call, and you'll be invited to get the hell out of my stream. But Parry can't thank you enough for this. This has been so much fun,
My pleasure.
and yeah, just anything on the horizon, any projects you can talk about. To go back to that question from earlier, someone asked.
Just still I think I've
So I know
some more
the
stuff.
strike messed up so much with
Yeah,
everybody.
but still doing stuff for Mortal Kombat because my DLC is the
DLC
last one to
stuff.
come out
Okay, cool.
in summer of this year. So I'm still working on that, and then besides that, just I think the next thing is really just an appearance in Atlantic City that I'm doing.
Okay, yeah, I saw your post on that. That's
July
cool.
25th to the 28th. So pretty
And what
much
is it? What's that for?
that's just a convention with
Okay,
I
cool.
think like Teresa Palmer's there, C. Thomas Howell. I mean, a lot of cool people. So yeah, I'm excited.
All right, awesome. That'll be great. If anything, I'll get the info for all of Parry's social media. I will have in the description as soon as this ends. So his website will be in there, and your YouTube channel is already in there.
Cool.
Pretty sure it's the right one. You only got one YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, it's in there. So that's all in there if you want to connect with Parry on social media. And can't thank you enough again, man. This has
My
just been
pleasure.
a
Great
blast.
talking to you. Thanks for having me.
And everybody else, thanks for joining in. And yeah, we got somebody here. Awesome to hear and see you talk about you and your work, Parry. All the best to you, and looking forward to seeing your future work. Congrats as well to JT for fantastic. Thank you, Jason. And say hi to Mrs. Hope. Her class is great. So, all right, everybody in chat, thanks so much. And yeah, Monday we have CJ Graham from Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason
Won't be
Lives.
talking at all.
Will not be speaking one bit.
It's
I
gonna be
actually, you want to hear my, you want to hear my sick mind. The movie A Quiet Place, right? With John Krasinski.
yeah.
My review, whatever you want to call it, discussion on that movie. I did pantomime, fake pantomime and sign language for like 45 minutes talking about that movie
Wow.
because I figure I don't think no one's crazy enough to make a video like this and fit the
Right.
theme of the movie where you can't talk and then
Right.
try to explain this movie. And nobody has ever figured out what the hell I'm talking about. I don't even know if I know what I'm saying in that movie, in that video anymore. But yeah, guys, Monday that'll be great having Jason on, and I'm hopefully I can get in touch with Felissa when she gets back, because that would be great to have her on. Maybe we'll make a little covert op surprise. You hop in and surprise her.
Yeah,
She
for
wasn't
sure.
here to surprise you.
For
But
sure.
all right, guys, that'll end it for tonight. And Parry, just hang on for a minute after, and
That's good.
I'll talk to you in a minute. All right,
Yeah.
guys. Everyone have a great night. Thanks again, Parry, for being here.